Okay. Yeah, it says live
All
now.
right. So, welcome to the March 23rd session of Live Hangouts with Cascadia. I am your host, Christina Evans, partner and director of business development for Cascadia Seller Solutions. And here with me tonight is our managing director, the one, the only, the impossible, Keith Greer. and Emily and Emily.
Sorry.
So the reason that we are slap happy is if you're watching the replay, you know that we had a technical difficulty and did not go live tonight at our usual time. So we apologize. We have a lot of content, excellent content for you tonight, though. So we appreciate you sticking with us and watching the replay. So Keith and I actually had the pleasure of attending the Sellers Conference 2 weeks ago, was it?
Yes,
2 weeks
we
ago
did.
in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Philly. I say we. I spoke. I gave a presentation, and Keith was my right-hand man, and we were able to riff. And,
I clicked slides.
yes, he clicked slides, but he has excellent bit of knowledge as to the inner workings of Amazon and what sellers can expect from the inside. So that was an excellent time, in my opinion. A lot of excellent information.
We had fun.
Sorry, I'm sounding like Trump. Everything's excellent. It's awesome. All right, so
it's happy.
It was great.
Happy.
All right, so
real news.
Stop. The presentation that I gave was a collaborative effort from everybody within Cascadia, with all of their years of knowledge and their levels of expertise. It was entitled "Working Backwards: How to Manage Your Brand Like Amazon Basics," and so the point of that, what that means, working backward, is the concept that Amazon uses with their product development process to how to do it properly, really. So what we want to do is I'm going to go through a modified version of the presentation and talk about how you as a seller can work backward the way that Amazon does, so that the products that you're developing can be developed and launched on Amazon in the same way that Amazon does. We know what their expectations are, and you're held to those expectations even more so than they are themselves.
Yes.
They don't even hold themselves to their own expectations, no. Right?
Do as we say, not as we do.
Indeed. So last week, if you were watching or watched the replay, we were able to interview the Well Insurance Group, which is the group that has developed an insurance product that allows sellers to purchase insurance in the event of an account suspension, so that if you are suspended, that money that you're losing every hour, every day that you're not selling, you're able to recoup some of that. We want you to be able to prevent that. Obviously, we don't want you to have to use that insurance. It's nice to be able to have that if you need it, but that's the point of this. So we're gonna learn how to work backward and manage your brand like Amazon Basics. So many
proactive.
Yes, proactively. That's what we're doing here. Many new sellers start in retail arbitrage, online arbitrage. Some may move to wholesale, but they have little to no experience with product development the proper way. Managing a global supply chain is time consuming. It's a complicated process. Learning the hard way is financially and emotionally challenging. You could get products stuck at customs, obviously 1 and 2 star reviews, customer injuries or damage.
Unfortunately, and that's what we talked about before, whereas you could dump a ton of money and time only to be stopped in your tracks permanently.
Right.
Yeah.
The story that I told at the beginning of the presentation was about a seller who came to us last summer distraught, just totally distraught. He'd spent tens of thousands of dollars developing a product that relied on Bluetooth technology, which requires FCC registration or certification. And he didn't know that. The product had gotten stuck at customs. He'd been working with them for a couple of months by the time he called us on, trying to negotiate getting his product released so he could start making his money back. Because he didn't know what he didn't know, he ended up paying the factory an additional $2,000 to use their FCC certification, which isn't a reciprocal document. You're the importer of record. You have to have your own stuff. So we were able to help him, but in the meantime, he lost a lot of time. He lost a lot of money, potential income, and that's a really expensive mistake. Something which to a company like Cascadia, that's pretty simple to us. That's something that we would have covered through the development process, right, Emily? You coach people through product development all the time.
Yeah, we actually have specific people who would be able to call out those details in things. Right. So as a coach, I actually don't know all of it at all, but I know that we have somebody who can handle each of the things, and that's what's the important part.
Right, absolutely.
That just as a matter of course. Yeah.
I was thinking today, there's several, if you don't know even if you do know what you're doing to a degree, we have within the project management system that we use, if you're doing product development from A to Z, so from the idea phase to it's now at a fulfillment center ready for people to buy and for it to be shipped off to consumers or customers, we have 116 tasks that cover kind of like a basic product development process. God forbid you have something that's very specific, then you're adding on those tasks. I don't expect any person that would come to us to know what each of those 116 different steps are into effective, healthy, safe product development. There's just no way that you could possibly know that. There's multiple third-party services that support in the process. All of them have different goals. You have customs brokers, advertisers, coaches, VAs, virtual assistants, sourcing agents, factories and manufacturers, your third-party logistics and prep companies, lawyers, regulatory agencies, laboratories. All of these people have different goals and needs than you. And for example, a laboratory, if you were to walk in off the street essentially and say, hey, I have this product that I want to test, they would give you a quotation for all of the tests, just all of the things. Somebody like Cascadia would be able to tell you, hey, this is the regulatory requirement. This is your bare minimum. And then based on what we know about this type of product, here's some supplemental that we recommend for, performance testing or safety testing, something to that degree. But there's so many different protocols that you could test for, and you could spend thousands of dollars on testing that you don't even need. Somebody like Cascadia would be able to direct you and say, okay, this is what you definitely need. This is also what you should do, but it's not a requirement. And these are all just, if you want it, great. If you want to be able to make these claims on your detail page, then great. Yes, you should have this type of testing, but here's laboratories will sell you everything, and you don't necessarily need it.
They will, and actually we're working on a project right now where the laboratory won't even give us protocols without seeing the thing first. And so that's something that I had never run into, but that's an interesting thing. So if I were somebody who was trying to develop a product and it was so new and so unavailable in most regions that they were just like, nope, we don't have anything for you. If I had the knowledge to even approach a lab with a sample and have it tested, if they were to come back at me and say, yeah, we don't have any protocols for this, I actually wouldn't know where to go with that information. So that's, that's a situation that I hadn't run into in product development. And so that's something to think about too.
And so having a compliance person, somebody who knows what the heck that expectation is through what we call our
talking about, like there's so many things that people would be like, okay, I guess go ahead and test for Prop 65. Well, are you going to be selling it anywhere in California? And if the answer is no, then you don't even need to consider that thing at all. But it's such a prevalent test that it's, why not test for that?
And there are times where that's a requirement versus supplemental. Yes, maybe you should have it, but you're not required to have it. So having somebody be able to tell you, yes, you do need this, so that you don't get stuck in a position to then have to defend yourself if you're listing, or God forbid your account is shut down.
Yeah.
So kind of a list of things you should know when you're venturing into branded products. What's an AQL? Emily, do you know what AQL is?
Quality limit.
It's the acceptable quality limit. That decides on the AQL decides on the maximum number of defective units beyond which a batch is rejected.
Right. So it's basically just a percentage of what's acceptable. It's understood that there's going to be defects in any production run. You're not going to have 100% perfect. So we'll set the acceptable. It's really the acceptable, not acceptable limit.
Right.
The acceptable, unacceptable limit. So we'll put that at like. That's what we'll do. So yeah, yeah, it's important to have that for sure.
Knowing if, say you're developing a drinking mug that's glazed, is the glaze that you're using food safe? Does the cord on the lamp you're developing pass UL testing? Something that's not necessarily compliance related, but is your logo mobile friendly? We know that, what was the percentage, Keith? 89% of users on Amazon or consumer. So there's 14 million consumers visit Amazon every day. We learned that and it was like 89% of those people purchase using a mobile device. So you want to make sure, is really high number. You want to make sure that your logo is mobile friendly. You don't want it to look like, you've got a pretty butterfly, but on a mobile device, it looks like a smushed bug. And is that the brand story that you want to tell? So is the factory that you're using socially responsible? Are they paying for slave labor? And what's an HTS classification? Do you know, Emily, do you know what HTS stands for?
Harmonized tariff schedule.
Yes. And do you know why that's important?
It's important because the harmonized tariff schedule basically means a schedule of taxes that we've all agreed upon. We're in harmony.
It's the code. It's the code that the regulatory agencies, customs, uses to classify and define internationally traded goods upon which duties are levied. So if you have a children's product versus a topical, maybe a face cream that you're developing, the HTS classification, I don't know this, but I'm assuming they're different because the duties on this topical is going to be different than this children's product. So if you have the wrong code,
with your import fees. And so that's one of the things. I was just talking to a client about this today because he was trying to get me to help him pinpoint exactly which of these variations of product would be more profitable for him. And I can't do that because it hasn't gone through any of the things that would tell me what his import fees would be. So that is a very basic thing that I think a lot of people glaze over, and it can actually really affect your bottom line, because how much is it going to cost you to take that from China to the States now? And if you were only paying $250 to have it manufactured, you're not going to be able to sell your product for much more than you paid to get it onto our shores and get it manufactured and all of that. So it's important to know your HTS classification and to not get it wrong, because if it's wrong or if it's just simply not classified, then now you have a chance at having your stuff seized, and that's not
expensive. It's expensive. It's time wasted. It's if it's there too long, they can start charging you storage fees. What else? They could seize it for additional, like they'll send it through their X-ray machines, and you get charged whatever their going rate is for that, and you have zero choice over that decision. You get a bill from customs, and it says, we charge you $240 for an X-ray. And I was reading a bill for a client that we just got a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, what the heck is this? Well, it got seized at customs because you didn't use us to help you to prevent this from happening. So that's a nice little list of things to consider when you're venturing into branded products, and not to mention that nobody wants to get suspended. There was a survey that Web Retailer did in just last year, 2016. 61% of sellers fear being banned, which is a legitimate fear. Funny, Keith. It's a legitimate fear because Amazon, as I've said before, they are God over their domain, and they exercise their godliness. They exercise their right to change any of their terms of service, to do anything that they want. And as we continue further with this discussion, they exercise their right to suspend you for perceptions that customers have with perceived issues with your products that you're selling. So,
and that's, I mean, that reputation has gone out far and wide, meaning that there are a lot of sellers that go into this already kind of trembling in their boots. And so couple that with the fact that the information that we're going over right now, they don't know, it's an uncomfortable position to be in. You already have so much to worry about, and you know that selling on Amazon is important. They're walking into it already not happy.
Right.
So 61% of sellers are just like, eh. So yeah, it's I don't want to say it's unfortunate, but it's definitely justification to listen to what we're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you know, this brings up a totally side subject, and I'll just mention it again. We get asked frequently, well, what makes you an expert? Everybody in this community, in this space, refers to themselves as Amazon experts, suspension prevention experts, product development experts. What makes us experts on this very specific platform is all of our consultants, our entire team of consultants, are former Amazonians. So every bit of advice, every consultation that we have, everything that you hear from us is with that information in mind. We take that information, all of the data, the expertise, the skills that we've learned about how Amazon expects things to be done, and we turn that and use it for your benefit. Now we're telling you, we know for a fact that this is what Amazon expects. And if you don't do to this expectation, then you run the risk of not being able to sell on their platform. So that's what makes us experts. Between our team, what is it? We have 78 years of inside Amazon experience. I'll tell you, between somebody who was a seller and figured out something that worked for them, and then maybe they've been doing it for a few years, versus a 78-year-old who's been doing this specific thing for 78 years, wouldn't you want to take the advice of that person, you know?
With that in mind, and to kind of go a step further, so one of the things that is kind of I don't know if Achilles heel is the right phrase for it, but the seller forums kind of breed fear and misinformation as much as it does help. Because in cases like this, I mean, general activity, how to, list things, basic stuff, that's fine. I mean, those a lot of the time don't change, or don't change enough to where you can't figure it out. But when we're talking about things like being suspended, where it's the ASIN level, or it's the account level, or all these, random emails that are asking for things that no one really even knows about, when that hits, there's a lot of misinformation. Like you just said, well, 1 or maybe 10 sellers tried something specific and it worked. So what happens is everybody assumes that that's the way it's supposed to be, and then that's the expert opinion. So the reality of it is, they may have gotten lucky. They may have figured it out. But I think another thing that's important, that what we can recognize, is that we're not always going to, obviously we're in Cascadia now, we're not in Amazon, but we were in Amazon long enough to know how they change and the signs to recognize when things may not be about to fit in. And we can recognize by the communication on the seller forums, what we see happening on a daily basis. Oh, this is Amazon's, this is the way they do it. And we're able to recognize a lot quicker what is actually going to work. And, you know, to be fair, we will be the first to admit that it ain't 100% game. You know what I mean? I mean, Amazon, like I said, they expect us to be more perfect than they are.
Right.
And because they've changed so much, it can be really frustrating because the world doesn't know, but we know a little bit more.
Sure.
A lot more.
So working backward, as I mentioned earlier, it's an approach that's widely used at Amazon. What we do within Cascadia when we're working on this type of stuff is that we try to work backward from the customer, rather than starting with an idea for a product and trying to push customers onto that idea, while working backward can be applied to any specific product decision. Using this approach is especially important when developing new products or features. And I'll say this at a high level. If the product is not very exciting in a press release, that's one of the first things, and we'll go over that. That's one of the first things you should do is write a press release. If the product's not very exciting in the press release, it's probably not that exciting. You want to determine who benefits from the product and what are the key features for your product. Describe how your product solves the problem that you've posed. Get social proof, talking to a family member or a friend, like, hey, if I develop this thing, what do you think about it?
Something I wanted to touch base on with the press release concept, and I've learned this from being involved with other things that require press releases. And I've run into a situation where people are, well, why do I need to put out a press release? Because it's not like I'm announcing this to, you know, TMZ or, you know, NBC News. Why do I need to put out a press release? And the thing is that people kind of have a misconception that it's, yes, the term press release means that it's accessible to the outside world, but that a lot of the time can be the first line of wowing somebody into your product. Yes, working backwards is absolutely the way to go. Writing a press release can explain your product and show somebody, the people that we are, you know, trying to get this product to, that we found that base, we want to get it to them, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to know anything about it. The press release can be used in a number of different ways other than newspapers. On your website, anybody that is advertising, it's a good way to have an easily accessible and searchable document that people can read before they actually go looking for the item, like word of mouth thing, that kind of stuff.
Well, you're talking about with the press release. I think we haven't gotten to the part about like what the press release should include.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, what you're not saying is, if you're working backward, you have determined that there is a problem in the world that you want to solve. And
Yes.
in order to solve that problem, you are going to develop a product that will then solve that problem. The press release is detailing that. You have a heading, you have a subheading. You want to summarize, give a summary of the product and the benefit. At that point in a press release, you want to assume that the reader is only going to read the summary. I'll tell you what, if I'm reading a press release and there's a summary, that's the part I'm reading. That should be the most important, most exciting part of your press release is the summary. You summarize the product and the benefit. But you tell the problem. So here's the problem that I've decided the world has today. And now here's also my solution on how your product is going to elegantly and efficiently solve this problem that exists in the world today. Go on the record. Find somebody within your company who talk to them, ask them about it, and quote them. Describe how
in a way
go ahead.
In a way, it's almost like a prelude to a description page, a proper one.
Yeah.
Well,
it
what
really
I was
does.
going to say too is actually the press releases for a lot of new products coming from Amazon were written during the conception phase initially. And the reason why, all the quotes are fake at the beginning, of course. The idea is that what will people say about this product? What will it look like? You know, how will it be described? What will be the big thing in lights? And you actually sort of conceptualize that, and then again work backward from that. Okay, so if I want customers to say wowza wow, then how do I make that be that? And if I only want them to say meh, then how do I, you know, like it's kind of a way.
And if the determination you've come to is that your product is meh, you should probably move on to another product.
I guess
earlier.
Or change the color of the paper that it's printed on. That always
Sure. So,
I guess my point is actually just, you know, that you always do, you want it to be a wow thing. And so to sit down and, you know, write that out. Customers are saying this is the most innovative thing they've seen in 50 years. Okay, so what does that look like then? And now you have to make an innovative thing you haven't seen in 50 years.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. So your summary, the problem that you're solving, the solution, how you're solving it, going on the record, building excitement. How easy is it for them to get started with your product or to purchase your product, or whatever it ends up being? The sky's the limit. Getting social proof. Talk to your mom. Are you developing the most amazing brush ever? And maybe your girlfriend or boyfriend is a hairstylist, and hey, I'm developing this crazy brush that's amazing. How would you use it? What do you think about it? So get social proof. Talk to somebody, a hypothetical customer, and quote them. And then obviously in a press release, you want to close with a call to action. There's no point in telling people and building excitement about this thing that you're developing if you're not then telling people what you want them to do with it or to purchase it, right? You want them to go do something. Here's this press release. All right. So while this next concept is, while it's primarily used for projects, it also works for products. So one of the absolute best ways that you can find, well, all data is useful data, right? So what are customers saying in questions and answers? I have made several purchases on Amazon, and I get emails all the time saying, hey, somebody asked a question about this product. Do you know the answer? What are people saying? Here's the question. Here's what customers who purchased that item are saying in the answers. What are customers saying in product reviews? What are they saying in seller feedback? What are customers doing in terms of returns? If you are looking, and I'll let you two expound on this, if you look at all of those places, you can find at what point do you need to make the best version of this product. You know, that right now it's ambiguous. We haven't determined what the product is, but this will help you. If you say you've come up with your product, you've written your press release, how do you make it the best version of that product now? The best way to find that information is go look in these places that I just said. Seller feedback. What are people saying about, you know, the returns, product reviews, questions and answers. Keith, you look like you're thinking.
Well, I know. So is this this is post release, correct? Like once you've actually listed your product, that's what we're referring to, right? Because all these.
So I'll say, so for the example in the presentation, we chose a body pillow, and we'll get to that. So the determination was that pregnant women use body pillows to balance their hips because those are dislocating due to the baby growth, and often body pillows are you get overheated with a body pillow. So that's the problem. The solution is that pregnant women need a cost-effective cooling body pillow option. So now that you've decided, here's my problem, I want to develop the most amazing cooling body pillow ever known to mankind. So you go online and you start researching body pillows. You look at on Amazon. What are questions and answers about these body pillows? What are people saying? What read product reviews about competitor or your inspiration, but maybe you find one and you're like, oh my God, that's exactly what I want to make, but how can I make it even better? That's where you're finding this information is in questions and answers, seller feedback, product reviews.
So post creation, and I think this list is important for two different reasons. One, if you find a product that's similar, or even in the same kind of genre of whatever you're making, yes, absolutely, this is one part of your resource, one part of your research resource is finding out what the customers are actually saying. Before questions and answers came out, product reviews were a good way to find information, but as all of us know, product reviews can be random and chaotic.
Right.
The questions and answers section is almost like review light, in the sense that it tends to be more fact based on experience, as opposed to opinion, because you have a lot of people that ask like technical questions. Like, what's my experience is this. Someone else that has that same experience will react to it. Whereas, product reviews can be anybody just kind of blabbermouthing, good or bad, about how they feel about it.
Right.
So the thing that's good is you can find out what people are actually, what they know, what they don't know.
Right.
And they can also get an overall sense of how people actually feel about it. So this is the seller feedback, that for the people that are selling this product, notice the sellers that are responding to product reviews, but also sellers that are getting good reviews to show that they actually care about the products. That's good information. So the good thing about that is, for pre-listing and pre-selling, you can get a really good idea about whether or not your product will do well and where it needs to go. But it also prepares you for how to deal, and I might be jumping ahead here, but what stands out to me about this is it really prepares you for what you are going to absolutely need to be on top of your product online. Because we talked about, what do your customers want? What are they saying? These items that we're talking about, that's it. That's direct customer connection outside of like email or a phone call, which a lot of the time sellers either don't have the time or the customers just won't reach out. They will spout off, good or bad, with their keyboards, and unless you're paying attention to it, you're not even going to know. And that can literally make or break your product, especially within the first couple months of being online.
Right.
You go ahead.
I was just saying and in the questions and answers, I had somebody ask, well, who cares? It's people asking questions. Why do I care about that? That is such useful data, because think about this, and Emily can attest to this, being our content expert. If somebody is asking a question about a product, that means that the listing, the product detail page, the insert, the label, something on the package somewhere is not clear to them the answer to this question. They have a question. So how can you improve so that you don't get the same question? You know what I mean? So
yeah, actually, it's a little disappointing to me that anybody said that they don't care about that, because that's pretty much all that is unanswered questions by people you should totally care about the opinion of. They're your customers.
Yep.
So the question was why they should care. Like, what it's people interacting.
There's questions. I mean, there are questions right there, and theoretically they see them, and if they have customers asking things, I mean, it's just it makes sense that you would want to answer those questions. And also, the questions and answers can present new product opportunities as well. So, like you were saying, that pregnant women need a cooling pillow. Well, someone could easily back into that information by looking at the questions and answers and wondering why everyone gets so hot when they hug all of these pillows, and creating one that's cooler. So you should care about those things because they're possible money-making opportunities. Well, they're all money-making opportunities. Either you have an existing product that obviously needs to be made better advertising-wise, or you have an opportunity to create something new because your customers are asking questions about something that actually doesn't exist yet, and you can make it.
Yep.
So.
A lot of something came to mind that we talked about Amazon kind of holding sellers to a higher standard than they do themselves. I know that the questions and answers originally, when it was launched, was a way to relieve customer service a little bit by customers writing in asking questions that the customer service reps didn't have answers to. And in a way, because of it was a good idea, but it's turned into something else, which a lot of sellers don't realize, that not only if you're looking for, like we said before, if you're looking for your own answers, you don't have to ask the questions. You can just look through there. And then when you're, I don't want to say defending, but when you have your product up and you're trying to figure out how to make it better, what started out as a cost-saving measure for Amazon has actually turned into an extremely powerful tool that in reality people pay thousands of dollars to get this kind of data.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They put out opinion polls and hey, you like our product, click this link, and over 6 to 12 months they may get a small sample of what their customers actually think, where here is literally for some products that have been around for 6 months, there can be pages and pages of things you didn't even think of. And so it's a really powerful tool.
This is, we refer to it as benchmarking, where we check, and you come to us with hey, here's, essentially at this point, if you've come to us, you've decided what the problem is in the world that you want to solve, how you're going to solve it. Now you want to know, what do I need to do to make the best version of it? And is it going to be profitable for me, all this time and effort that I've put into this? We're checking initial sales data. What are we do? This is what we do. This is part of our process in benchmarking, is evaluating the competitive landscape, reading product reviews, questions and answers, seller feedback, to be able to provide a comprehensive report of what you can expect moving forward with this type of product. You can do this on your own. That's part of what I was going to say next, is being proactive about your product development process. Do your homework. If you don't, somebody else will. And while you should know your business better than anyone, and if you don't do your homework, the one who did is going to bypass you. While your product is stuck at customs because you didn't do enough of your homework to know that you needed this, that, or the other, somebody else did. It's now made it into the US. It's on its way to a fulfillment center. People are ready to buy it, and they're now making money ahead of you because you didn't do your homework. So being proactive, and I know we spent a lot of time on that little part, but I think being proactive is the most important part to the next steps of the process. If you do your homework, you're then able to make the best, healthiest, safest version of your product, and preventing what the next part of what we're getting into.
Yeah, that's something that I really like. Because I've sold things before, and when the third-party platform for sellers first started, it was kind of a free-for-all. You can sell whatever you want to, and over time, Amazon got more hip to what they should be letting people sell. But one of the things about being proactive, as far as doing your homework and making sure the logistics are there, but we have no problem, like, and you mentioned, if somebody wants to sell a really cool coat hanger, that maybe you think is better than other coat hangers, we're going to be able to go and look and say, okay, this is a great idea, but before you walk into this, you have to realize that there's 500 other people that came up with that idea first. So what can we do to help you sell that? Everything from thinking it through, like, what is it about your product that you can make different, Or what is it that you can do to make your product that may be similar, but that you can get ahead of the game? And that's a big part of what these other big sellers do, is that they're doing their homework. They are running at light speed to get to the top first. And if you can not outthink your competitors so much as really think about the working backwards, like what is different about this coat hanger that the customer actually needs? And sometimes sellers can't think outside the box. And because of our experience with working on Amazon, and we're all artist types, we watched Oprah as kids. We bought The Secret. We read it. It can really be a tool that could give you that much of an edge, and also be beneficial to the customer in ways you didn't think. So there's that.
You're totally right. We have, this presentation was meant to be about an hour long, and we try to keep our hangouts around 30 minutes. We're a little over that by about 10 plus minutes. So what we want to do, we intended this to be just a one-time thing, but we want to make this into a two-parter. This is an excellent point to where, okay, we've told you, be proactive, do your homework. Here's how you get to that point. So now we want to talk about how doing all of that homework ties into the actual prevention of suspension once you have developed. So we are going to continue this discussion next week, which I believe would be March 30th, 2017. Again,
Yes.
what we're talking about is how working backward allows you to manage your brand like Amazon Basics, setting the expectation based on our knowledge working inside Amazon on how to create the best possible version of a product to avoid suspension in the future. So we are going to do the second part next week. We appreciate you for dealing with the technical difficulties we had at the beginning of this session. We will be back next week, same time, actually not same time, 30 minutes earlier, same place. We'll send out an email. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, info@thinkcascadia.com. You can always give us a call at 206-202-0222 or visit our website at www.thinkcascadia.com. Again, we appreciate you joining us and look forward to the second part of the series on working backward, how to manage your brand like Amazon Basics. We'll see you next time. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.